Sunday Morning goes to the Grammys. Here again is Jane Pauley.
Tonight's Grammy Awards will feature a brand new category, Best Soundtrack for Video Games. Music that Conor Knighton tells us has come a long way. A very long way.
This theme from Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. May be one of the most recognizable songs from the 1980s. Barely a minute long, it has been played on loop in living rooms for countless hours. But in the decades since its release, video game music has significantly leveled up. Last month, the Utah Symphony devoted an entire evening to game music. At this sold-out show in Salt Lake City, an enthusiastic crowd dressed to the nines packed the concert hall just to hear the audio from their favorite video games.
You're listening to it when you play the game, obviously. Do you find yourself listening to it when you're not playing the game?
Oh yeah, it's a huge part of my music taste.
Today's games feature complex orchestral scores.
Most people don't understand that we do write real music. A lot of people just think it's the blips and bloops from the old days. All of this stuff.
Janine Cowan is the chair of the University of Southern California's Department of Screen Scoring, which trains budding composers to write for any sort of screen.
Good composers are good storytellers, and we want to work on these properties that are telling great stories.
While early games like Pong and Pac-Man did not tell much of a story, the advent of CD-ROM technology allowed game designers to create much more complex worlds, with more complex music to match.
With digital audio, then we had a lot more space in order to put on actual tracks of recorded audio.
A real violin, a real timpani.
Violin, a real orchestra.
Best-selling series like Animal Crossing and Call of Duty feature hours of original music.
The most interesting projects I've ever been asked to score have been games. And I've scored film and television.
Professor Gary Scheinman got his start composing for shows like Magnum P.I., in which he'd create music to match the exact action on the screen. But when composing for a game like BioShock, he has to create an entire suite of songs that can loop and layer dynamically, all depending on what the player decides to do.
What one player takes 5 minutes from get to point A to point B, another player may take 60 seconds. But if we're scoring it, how do we score that so that each player has a scored experience that feels natural?
Game music has its own set of challenges, and this year, for the first time ever, its own Grammy category.
That's great, though. It really does set a mood right off the bat.
Thanks.
Really cool.
Christopher Tin's music for the game Old World is one of 5 albums competing tonight for Best Score Soundtrack for video games and other interactive media.
Does this feel like a significant moment for video game composers?
Oh, it absolutely is a significant moment. I mean, for one thing, we finally get the recognition that we deserve because there's a lot of great music being written for games, as any gamer will tell you.
Back in 2011, Tin made history as the first composer to win a Grammy for a piece of music originally written for a video game. His song Baba Yetu won in the category recognizing arrangements after he released it on his own album, but gamers had first heard the song years earlier in the hit game Civilization IV.
Do you think that exposed you to a new audience?
It absolutely did, yeah. I mean, my audience was much smaller prior to me being involved in games, but suddenly being able to write a theme song for such a high-profile franchise like Civilization really put my music in front of a lot of people.
Worldwide, an estimated 3 billion people play some form of video game. And even after they beat a game, they may keep playing the music. For the composers who create that music, tonight, the Recording Academy starts keeping score.
What's nice is that now, every year moving forward, a video game composer will get a Grammy statue, and that's a nice thing to see.